Hello, everybody, and welcome to our first ever album review. So if you've watched our previous video, which you probably haven't because no one's watched it at this moment in time, but yeah, if you have watched it at some point, then you would know that we are about to review Return of the Mack, the full album by Mark Morrison. So Brett, as it was your pick, do you want to go first and tell us what you thought about the album?
Oh, yeah, throw me in the deep end there straight away. For my flip a coin or something there. Yeah, I suppose as I picked it, we'll go with the rule that whoever picks it goes first. Well, let me just straight out and say overall, straight away, I actually really like the album. Again, I don't know, and again, without saying that age too much, whether, a classic this is a real sort of 90s album, it seems. Even though I haven't done many notes, I've got a little few notes here, but also kind of felt quite 80s to me as well. I had a bit of that sort of vibe to it. But overall, I really, really liked it. And as I just sort of partly said in the last call, R&B is not sort of my main genre that I sort of look and get into. There was definitely more songs on here that I liked than didn't like. Yeah, so I'll initially start on those four. So what did you think?
Okay. Yeah, I would say it was a bit of a mixed bag. I didn't like it as much as you, based on what you just said there. I thought it was quite good in terms of variety. It wasn't like every song was the same. There was a lot going on in different songs. We have previously criticized before we were doing this YouTube stuff, when we listened to albums before, we have come across a lot of albums where kind of every song almost sounds the same. With this, I don't think that was the case at all. There were lots of varieties in the songs.
I agree with that.
I preferred the first half of the album, and for me personally, the album went downhill after that. But I'll talk about the individual songs shortly. I hadn't kind of thought about what you just said about it kind of sounding kind of 80s like, but when you say that, yeah, I can sort of see that to a degree. I'd certainly say it sounded very 90s, and yeah, possibly hints of the 80s going on there as well. Some interesting things as well that I noted. I didn't really do much reading up on the album on Wikipedia until I think yesterday, and I kind of said during our pick, which we did on a video on Wednesday, that he's probably a bit of a one-hit wonder, just known for his song Return of the Mack. However, I don't know if, Brett, you've read this Wikipedia article on the album. It does actually turn out that, just reading it here, the album made Morrison the first artist in British pop history to have 5 top 10 singles from a debut album to chart on the UK singles chart. So these singles included Let's Get Down, Return of the Mack, Crazy, the remix version, Trippin', Horny, and Moan and Groan. So Crazy became a top 20 hit in the UK, and the remix peaked at number 6 in the UK. And obviously Return of the Mack was really popular as well. So yeah, it turns out that he actually had, 5 top 10 singles, and that made history for a UK artist. So that took me by surprise.
Yeah, it did. So I didn't actually read up too much on the album, just because sometimes I think in the past when we've done that, it then does have a subconscious effect on how you treat and think about the album. So I tend to, just from what you said, and just sort of went straight into the album with as little information as possible. And funny enough, 2 or 3 of those songs that were mentioned, they're the ones I kind of liked on my list as well, which I didn't think I would, funny enough. So yeah,
I think that's a good point you made there. I don't think it's a good idea to do too much like research on the songs or the album beforehand, because as you say, you can subconsciously kind of have it can affect you, definitely. So
yeah,
like I said, I did the reading up after I listened to the album, and I think that's the best way to do it. Then you can kind of find out whether any surprises there, things like that. And just before we do talk about the songs in general, or the individual songs that we've noted down, I think something else that surprised me about the album was the style of music. Now, although I wasn't really I didn't really have any real expectations, but I think judging by the album cover itself, seeing the man kind of sitting there, kind of all cool, and maybe I read up on
holding a pair of handcuffs.
Yeah, the handcuffs. I read up on Mark Morrison himself. He's had some problems with the law. I was expecting this to be a lot more kind of gangster kind of style. That was just my feeling of how it would be. But
I have to interject there. I have to agree with you. I felt exactly the same. That's why I was surprised that I liked it more than I did. Again, I probably subconsciously thought, I didn't do any reading up on Mr. Morrison himself, so I didn't know anything about his past. But again, just purely judging the book by its cover, the album cover, and just 90s R&B hip hop was in. It's actually almost quite a sexual album, really, which I'm sure we'll probably talk about in some of those tracks. And I know in the past, it's always been about drug, and there is some stuff with drugs, but more about law and drugs rather, and a little bit of sexual. But this seems very just about getting girls, really. Getting girls, all about love, sexual love, which was a little bit different, really.
Yeah, I didn't really hear much in the way of swearing. I was kind of expecting to be a little bit more kind of obscene and lots of the swear words and stuff. But yeah, it was quite easy to listen to, and it was quite a kind of sort of romantic, sort of lovey sort of album. So one more thing I wanted to quickly note was that on the critical reception part, it says one of the critics from Entertainment Weekly said, its title, Return of the Mack, sounds like another rap title of Gangster's Paradise. Instead, Mark Morrison comes off more like a funked up seal, which I guess is kind of the point I was trying to make. It was, it wasn't the sort of genre or the style that I was expecting. So, and I think
I presume when they said seal, they mean the artist seal, not like the animal seal.
The artist.
So again, that's why I put it like I thought it was going to be Coolio-esque, and and that's why I think it was just that different feel. And I think seal was actually a really good example of that, because most people didn't know and would probably think, oh, this is going to be a real gangstery.
Yeah.
I mean, and it just didn't give that vibe at all. So
Okay. So we've talked about the album as a whole. So Brett, you said you were generally quite impressed with the album. So were there any songs? What songs did you particularly like?
Yeah, so it's kind of so for me, it's hard. The standout song by far was "Return of the Mack." Now, whether again, I knew the song and probably heard it numerous times as a youngster, and it's just, but it'd been really interesting if I hadn't known that song before, would it stood out as much on the album. But I did notice with that particular song, it did pretty much make the top 5 pretty much all over the world, bar a few countries. So, but to me, that was the obvious real standout song from there. The other ones that I liked, so I have to refer to the notes here. So I didn't feel like it, but Horny, actually quite, without going too much into like the words and what it probably was all about, but as a tune to listen to, actually quite enjoyed that one. Crazy, there was both the mix, the defunct mix and the regular one, like both of those sort of equally, really. And then there was a song towards the end, I Really Love You, which they were more sort of my favourite songs. And there was others which were sort of on par, really. But to me, the top 3 for me were Return of the Mack, Crazy, and Horny.
Okay. So what I do is, just to give everyone a bit of kind of background information, that the songs that I really like from any of these albums, I download and put them onto my kind of MP3 list. The first stage is, it's almost, if we compare it to football, basically every song has its trial, so to speak. So if I like the song, I kind of note it down, and will then listen to it again at the end and decide whether I'm keeping it or not, downloading it or not. So I ended up picking 2 songs that kind of, well, that I fancied, I guess. And they were Return of the Mack, which, as you said, was a standout song. I agree with you as well. I was always kind of thinking, like, if we'd never heard this song before, would it appeal to me so much? Just because we've known it for years and it's there in our mind, and that may play, you know, a role into why we like it so much. Probably does to an extent, but I still think it is a very good song. You know, I wouldn't say it's one of my all-time favorites, but I definitely really do like and respect Return of the Mack. And the second song that made my initial list was the first song, Crazy, and also the remix version. I couldn't really tell the difference, to be honest, without really comparing them. But then when I listened to the songs again, obviously Return of the Mack, I downloaded, love the song. I decided not to download Crazy. It wasn't really good enough for me, but it was definitely the second best song on the album. So yeah, for me, just the one song that I could say I really liked, and that was obviously Return of the Mack. So very briefly, I'm going to go through most of the songs here, just some notes I've made. So with Crazy, I wrote down not bad and had a nice little rappy bit kind of thing. Let's Get Down, the second song, was quite catchy, but I did find it had a repetitive chorus. And the third song as well, kind of similar. I just found the first 3 songs quite catchy. The fourth song, which I didn't write down the name of, I found to be a very different style, a kind of slow song. And yeah, it really kind of changed the style from the first 3. Then obviously we had Return of the Mack, which was the best song. And then we had I Like, which I found had an incredible change from Return of the Mack. I don't know if you noticed this, Brett, but I Like was nothing like Return of the Mack whatsoever. It couldn't have been any different. It was a kind of more dancey song. I didn't even hear any singing from Mark Morrison. There was like kind of a backing bit from some women or something. I almost found the song even a little bit cheesy, and quite repetitive as well.
I did actually put a kind of like next to that song, the sort of question mark. And again, whether it was because it was right after Return of the Mack, whether that did it justice or not justice, I don't know. But I know exactly what you're saying with that. But I didn't mind that song. Like if I was listening to the album, I would kind of enjoy it.
Yeah, it wasn't one of the worst songs, but we'll get to that later on for me. And then Trippin' came on, which had, for me, a different kind of singing voice, had backing vocals. And then we had Tears for You, which again I found very different. I wrote down a bit drab, maybe it's a little bit, I found it a little bit boring. And then we had one of your songs that you liked, Horny. This was an interesting one. I found that Horny, the song itself, was probably the only song on the album that sounded anything like Return of the Mack. So what I'm trying to say by that is, if I didn't know who was singing and I was hearing it for like the first time, we're like, I wonder if that's the same guy that sang Return of the Mack. It kind of had some similarities to it. However, I found the woman singing Get Horny was a kind of ruined the song in a way. It made it kind of cheesy and cheap and just a bit weird.
Yeah, and again, because when I listened to it at first, it sounded familiar, and I've wondered, have I actually heard this song before? And now I'm thinking, because then it actually was one of his hits, maybe at some point I had, but that for no reason, it's the only one that kind of felt a bit more like Return like the Mack. And I agree, I think the whole horny bit, the woman said, it kind of ruined the song, and that's why I liked it as a tune. I didn't think too much into it, but I think her repetitive saying that was, and actually there's obviously a song which must have been also from like towards the late 90s. The song I'm horny, horny, horny. But like it kind of, I don't know, it's kind of ruined it a little bit. Yeah,
it certainly changed it up. I don't know, it was almost too contrasting in a way, with Mark Morrison singing and then this random woman just suddenly going whatever she was saying, horny, horny. It's just for me, don't know, weird. Didn't really work for me anyway. And then, well, I wrote down, I found it a little bit cringy, in fact. And then we had I Really Love You, which I felt the voice on the song was weird, and I just wrote down horrible song. I really didn't like that. And then the Crazy D-Mix came on, and I thought, oh, this is all right. But then I realized it's just a remix of the first song, which I quite liked, Crazy. And then something I wanted to bring up with you was interludes on songs. So this particular album, this particular album had 2 interludes, just the 2, one at the beginning and one at the end. What, in your opinion, what does it do? What does it do to an album? Like, it's just a really short kind of piece of music. I don't know. What do you think?
Yeah, so we know, like, from other albums, the interludes come in different sort of shapes and forms and different lengths and different what they represent. This is the first time actually not the first time, there's been others I have enjoyed. I quite like it. It's almost like the start of the album, you're listening through the album, even though those songs had no connection whatsoever, and then it just sort of brought the album to the end. I actually quite like the interlude at the end of it. I was conscious I put it as one of my picks of the album, because it is a track on the album.
Yep.
But I did in this instance. I just treat it as just as the end of the album. But in this sense, it works all right for me.
Yeah, no, I don't know. I'm just
don't think I've got any
wondering.
good views or bad views. There's just no real view opinion on it. But I did quite like the song.
Yeah, I mean, I didn't mind it, but I just don't really know why exactly they do it. But yeah, there's nothing wrong with it. So yeah, that was what I wanted to say. So just to kind of conclude, I found the album quite varied. Return of the Mack was best song. It started off okay, and for me, it got worse towards the end. So, is there anything else that you wanted to add before we finish the review?
No, nothing more on top of sort of what you said there. Again, for me, yeah, Return of the Mack was the standout song. I said a couple other ones I liked, still weren't in the same sort of league as Return of the Mack. But like I did say, there was overall for me more songs that I did like than didn't like. And again, maybe because I was thinking I probably might not end up liking this song, this album. Did it change my opinion, what it sort of represented? But overall, yeah, I think it's definitely, if I was back in time, I might consider buying the album.
Okay, fair enough. So yeah, I guess, guys, that concludes today's review. It's our first review. I hope you enjoyed it. If you want us to, or if you think we can improve in some way, then yeah, let us know in the comment section below. Like the video, and don't forget to subscribe. Next video will be out on Wednesday, which will be the random choice selector, where you will find out what we're going to be reviewing next. And the review for that will be next Sunday. So guys, thanks for watching, and see you soon.